Hi everyone, and welcome to the first episode of my introduction to watercolor. First thing we need to talk about is water. You might think this is so obvious you can skip this section, but I guarantee there are things in this video you won't be familiar with. So please give me the 5 or 6 minutes I need to go over these important things. I don't underestimate the importance of water, and nor should you if you want to create lovely watercolor paintings. And this is why. I recommend, first of all, that you have large jars of water. You need 2 large jars of fresh, clean water within arm's reach of your painting when you're sitting at your painting table. 1, 2. And it's a good idea to store them while you're working on them, on the painting, on a tray, preferably one with caps on it. And you can just put them to one side, and the surface of the table will be protected by the old tray that you are using. So that's a really good idea. You don't have to have 2 big ones, but you do need one reasonably big one in order to keep your brushes clean, because what you're going to do is you're going to wet your brush in clean water, pick up some paint, do some painting, and then wash out your brush in the other container. This container, therefore, for the dirty water, will get dirtier quicker and needs to be bigger. This one could be replaced by a smaller jar if you don't happen to have 2 big mason jars like this. Could be, and then you can pick up your clean water from this one. But the thing to do is to remember to change your water often. You do need to do that. And if you're painting with a silly little pair of jars like this, which are completely faulty, there's absolutely nothing to recommend this, you'll be changing the water all the time. Either that or else your paintings will get really kind of muddy because the water that you'll be picking up won't be clean. These 2 containers, very nice from IKEA and blah, 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 are very stylish and completely useless as far as watercolor painting is concerned, and this is why. First of all, the reason why we recommend glass is so that you can see at a glance how clean or dirty the water is. And if it's opaque like this or this, you can't. So you look down into it and you can't really tell, not very easily. And if it's off to the side, you definitely can't tell. So color is out, opacity is out. I haven't actually got anything here apart from one, which I will show you, which is plastic, which is also bad. Plastic is bad because it picks up the dye on the from the paint, and this one is a big old pail. This is a great water container actually if you're washing out your brushes or whatever and you don't care what it looks like. But if aesthetics is important to you, then you don't want to use plastic because it will stain. But if you work in a studio where you don't have running water, having a big bucket like this with water in it, in fact you need 2 of them, is a great idea because you can tip your dirty water into one and you can get clean water from the other. And so if you haven't got running water, you can still change your water frequently. So that's a very useful thing to remember as well. I'm lucky I've got a sink and running water, hot and cold, in my studio, so that's not a problem for me. But I know a lot of people paint in places where they don't have water, or if you're out and about. That's another thing. You know, you won't want to take a big bucket with you if you're out and about, but there are other solutions to that, which we will come to in a minute. Another one that I don't actually recommend is this one, which is very nice. This is by Meaden, and I don't like it at all. I use it for putting my pens in, you know. I use it as a pen holder like that. It's very stylish. A lot of people do like it. I've noticed a lot of people on YouTube are using it, but it has a couple of disadvantages. One of which is the container is too small. Secondly, it's white, opaque. You can't see through it. And thirdly, you can't empty one half without emptying the other. So you tend not to empty it. And fourthly, it's actually quite heavy. And this is heavier than this. I totally recommend something like this. Doesn't have to be a mason jar. Can be a Kilner jar if you happen to live in England, or any other large jam jar. But the other good thing to remember is it's a good idea to have a nice big base. A big bottom is a good thing if you happen to be a jam jar. Yes. So big bottoms, transparent, glass, large, and all the rest of it. Here are some examples of ones I wouldn't use. Some people talk about just get a cup of water. No, this is a cup of water. It's no good. It's too small. And also, if you knock it over, you might break it. This is no good. It's a paper cup, and a plastic one is also not very good for indoors because they do get to be knocked over very easily. Not a brilliant idea either. This is okay. This is not, and this is not. And we went through that a second ago. Now, if you are going to go out and about, you need to take water with you, and you need, therefore, a plastic bottle with water in it. I couldn't find an empty one in my studio today. I don't know why not. I usually have plastic bottles around, but then there's nothing here at the moment. But anyway, this is a plastic bottle, which you know perfectly well how to recognize one. This is also good. It's leak-proof jar. I think I had hand cream in that. That would be enough. If you're just going out and doing kind of urban sketching or something like that, just need a little bit of water, then something like this, and you can, for safety's sake, you can keep it in, a Ziploc bag so that it doesn't leak all over your precious belongings and paintings and everything. The other thing you can do for water if you're out and about and you're not using a lot of water is to use, obviously, water brushes, which are very good. They hold the water in a reservoir here. You fill them up before you go out. And so I've heard of people actually painting on planes when they're traveling or in a car. They come in different shapes and sizes. Mead do a good selection. They're easy to find, and you can get them with pointed ends as well. So, yeah, they're quite fun to use. I've used them indoors as well, and they are quite fun to use. And to fill them up, you just unscrew the barrel here, and that's a nice big opening, and you just dip it in the water, squeeze it, and it'll fill up, or hold it under the tap. Either of those things will work. Okay, so that's all of those things. Now, what else was I going to tell you about? That's your water container, basically. So there's about 5 minutes of water containers, which is really very, very important. Now, don't use dirty water to paint with because the pigment will shift from the water into the paint. And if you're using yellow, for example, and you dip into dirty water to activate your yellow, then you're going to find that your yellow will go grey, and you don't want that. I came across the other day somebody saying that, what was it? The Mead paints in tubes were too thick because you had to add water to make them flow. Yes, you do. You don't paint straight from the tube. I have also seen videos on YouTube recently where people are painting straight from the tube. They are literally picking up a tube of paint like this, unscrewing the top and taking a brush, dipping into the paint like this. No water involved. I have no water here on my desk. And so they are dipping into the paint and then painting. I'm speechless. I don't understand that at all. I don't understand how, what do they do? Squeeze the paint out and then spray? I don't understand that at all. That's wrong. That's not how you paint with watercolor paint. You have always water on hand. Okay. The other thing I want to correct is the misapprehension that you can't paint with tap water. Some people are suggesting that you need to use bottled water, mineral water or distilled water, but you don't. You really don't. Tap water, even in countries where you wouldn't necessarily drink the water that comes out of the tap is perfectly okay to paint with. Watercolor paints are very stable and they don't get affected easily by the sorts of things that you're likely to find in tap water anywhere in the civilized world. And I've even painted in Egypt and used water out of the tap there that I would certainly never drink, not in a million years, but I didn't notice any difference with my paintings. And you can watch some of my videos if you want to challenge that. But no, you do not need to buy or use bottled or filtered or distilled water for your paintings. Nothing will happen. And you know what? If it did, if you happen to find yourself in an area where there was a high level of dissolved metals or salts or something in the water, and it changed the color of your paint, then guess what? Then you stop using that water and you use some bottled water. The chances of that happening are remote. So we're not going to use mineral water to paint with. If you're out and about and you haven't got any water with you, well, hopefully you will have brought with you a water brush or something like that. The one thing I do recommend that you don't try is to use seawater, because seawater will definitely affect not only the paint but also the paper, because it's got a high quantity of salt in it. And we all know what happens when you sprinkle salt onto your watercolor painting. You get all sorts of interesting effects. So I've seen people using seawater and they usually say afterwards, I regretted it because it looked all right at the time. But then when it dried and after a little bit of time had passed, things went a little bit funky. So, you know, it's fun to try, but it's not necessarily something to recommend that you do if you want to keep the painting. So there is that as well. And finally, I would say, if we're talking about studio painting, my hearty recommendation for everything that we're going to do is that you have a couple of big jars like this, and that you basically make sure you change your water frequently, and don't worry about any of these fussy bits and pieces that involve using mineral water or anything else like that. The other thing that you might want to have on hand, and I heartily recommend this too, as well as your tray, you need a cloth of some sort. A lot of people use paper towel. I prefer to use a cloth, and I have various ones on hand, some of which are very tatty, like this one. It's just a piece of toweling, and when you're learning to paint, you need to be able to dip into the water, boom, boom, and then take off some of the water, the right amount. You need to always have something that you can dry your brush on. This is really important and often overlooked. I don't know whether that should come under the heading of water or paper or paint or whatever. I think it's kind of a random thing that is not, generally speaking, strongly enough stressed, that it's very important for a watercolorist to be able to quickly and easily and thoroughly dry their brush off before they start to paint. There are many times when that's absolutely essential. And the thing is, if you haven't got a cloth, you'll find yourself putting your brush into your mouth, which is probably not to be advised. So on that note, I'm going to leave you with that to think about. If you want to get a printout of what I've said here in a slightly more, succinct manner, then you can download a PDF. You can get that from our website, and this video will be available to you on YouTube to watch anytime you want to. So that's, I think that's probably all I want to say now. And the next episode of this will be, we've looked at water. The next thing we're going to look at is going to be paper. And so that's going to be interesting, isn't it? And I'll see you there shortly. So bye for now, everybody. Don't go too far. The next one is coming up soon.